Everyone jokes that Germans are ridiculously stubborn robots and French people are flighty, unreliable dreamers. But here's the mind-bending reality check that'll make you question everything. What we call German stubbornness and French flightness are actually two completely different survival strategies that have shaped how half of Europe thinks about reality itself. One culture treats flexibility like kryptonite, while the other treats commitment like a suggestion, and the psychological reasons why will blow your mind. Let's destroy some stereotypes right off the bat. When people say Germans are too rigid, they're missing the entire point of what's actually happening. German stubbornness isn't about being inflexible. It is about having such deep anxiety about chaos that they've turned predictability into an art form. Germans don't follow rules because they love rules. They follow rules because uncertainty literally makes them uncomfortable at a cellular level. It's like they've collectively decided that if everything is perfectly planned, nothing bad can ever happen again. Meanwhile, when people call French people flucky, they're completely misunderstanding what French culture actually values. French flightness isn't about being unreliable. It's about prioritizing lived experience over abstract commitments. French people aren't avoiding responsibility. They're practicing what I call existential flexibility. They've collectively agreed that rigid plans are less important than responding authentically to whatever life throws at you in the moment. The workplace dynamics reveal everything. Walk into a German office and you'll witness what I call productive paranoia. Every meeting has an agenda that was circulated 3 days in advance. Every project has a timeline with buffer time built into the buffer time. Germans don't just plan for success. They plan for 17 different types of failure and have backup plans for their backup plans. It's not stubbornness. It's institutional anxiety management disguised as efficiency. Step into a French office and you'll see structured improvisation in action. French people will show up to meetings without agendas, spend 40 minutes debating philosophical implications of the project, then somehow emerge with brilliant solutions that nobody saw coming. They're not being disorganized. They're practicing collective creativity through controlled chaos. French work culture treats rigid planning like creative death, so they've built flexibility into their professional DNA. The time relationship differences are absolutely fascinating. Germans have turned punctuality into a moral virtue because being late suggests that other people's time doesn't matter, which violates their core value of mutual respect through predictability. When a German says, "Let's meet at 3 p.m., they mean 2:58 p.m., and arriving at 3:02 p.m. is basically a minor act of social aggression. German time culture is about creating trust through absolute reliability. French people have a completely different relationship with time that drives Germans absolutely insane. French punctuality is contextual. Being exactly on time for dinner with friends is actually considered rude because it suggests you're treating friendship like a business transaction. French time culture is about reading social situations and responding appropriately, not following arbitrary numerical constraints. They're not late. They're socially calibrated. Let's talk about the food culture psychology, because this reveals everything about how these cultures process decision-making. German food culture is about optimization, finding the perfect recipe and then executing it identically every single time. German restaurants pride themselves on consistency. When you order schnitzel, you know exactly what you're getting because variation would suggest lack of quality control. German food culture treats surprises like failures. French food culture is built around what I call controlled spontaneity. French chefs change menus based on what ingredients look good that morning, what season it is, what mood they're in, and what their grandmother would have approved of. French restaurants treat consistency like creativity death. If the dish is exactly the same twice, you're not really cooking, you're just following instructions. French food culture treats rigid adherence to recipes like culinary cowardice. The vacation planning strategies are like watching two different species approach leisure. Germans plan vacations like military operations, flights booked months in advance, hotel reservations confirmed, daily itineraries mapped out with backup indoor activities in case of weather. German vacation culture is about eliminating uncertainty so you can actually relax once everything is perfectly controlled. They're not being obsessive. They're creating conditions for genuine enjoyment. French people approach vacations like jazz improvisation. They know roughly where they want to go and approximately when, but the actual experience emerges organically based on recommendations, mood, weather, and whatever looks interesting along the way. French vacation culture treats over-planning like experience theft. If you know exactly what's going to happen, why bother traveling? They're not being irresponsible. They're staying open to authentic discovery. The communication styles couldn't be more different. German directness isn't about being rude. It's about creating clarity that prevents misunderstandings that could lead to chaos later. When a German says, "This presentation needs improvement," they're not being harsh. They're being helpful by providing precise feedback that allows for efficient problem solving. German communication culture values truth over comfort because temporary discomfort prevents long-term confusion. French communication is all about layered meaning and contextual interpretation. French people don't just exchange information. They engage in social relationship maintenance through sophisticated verbal interaction. When a French person says, "Perhaps we could consider alternative approaches," they might mean anything, from expressing disagreement to wanting deeper discussion. French communication culture values social harmony and intellectual engagement over direct efficiency. The relationship philosophies reveal significant cultural differences. German relationship culture is built on what could be called commitment optimization, finding compatible partners through careful evaluation, then building stable partnerships through consistent effort and clear expectations. German dating culture approaches relationships like long-term projects that succeed through planning, communication, and mutual reliability. This represents a sustainable approach to romance. French relationship culture operates on passionate authenticity. Relationships should feel dynamic, surprising, and emotionally engaging, even if that includes occasional complexity or uncertainty. French dating culture treats relationships like ongoing creative collaborations that stay interesting through spontaneity, intellectual stimulation, and emotional depth. This represents a different form of sustainable passion. Parenting styles show interesting contrasts. German parents create structure and predictability because they believe children thrive when they understand expectations and can develop independence within clear boundaries. German children learn self-reliance through consistent guidelines and logical consequences. German parenting culture views unpredictability as potentially challenging for child development. French parents encourage children to navigate complexity and ambiguity because they believe kids need to learn flexible thinking and creative responses to changing situations. French children learn adaptability through exposure to adult conversations, varied experiences, and intellectual challenges. French parenting culture views excessive structure as potentially limiting creativity. Home organization approaches reflect different philosophies of living. German homes are optimized for efficiency. Everything has a designated place. Systems are maintained consistently, and the environment supports productive daily routines. German home culture treats organization as a form of stress reduction through environmental management. French homes are curated for experience. Spaces are arranged to support conversation, cooking, relaxation, and aesthetic pleasure, even if that includes some organized flexibility. French home culture treats excessive organization as potentially limiting authentic living, so some creative variation becomes a sign of genuine lifestyle rather than lack of discipline. Both cultures are actually responding to the same fundamental human need for security, just through different strategies. Germans create security through planning and predictability. If systems work reliably, challenges become manageable. French people create security through adaptability and flexibility. If you can handle various situations, you maintain resilience. Both approaches work effectively within their cultural contexts. German systematic approaches create stable, efficient systems that allow for genuine relaxation and trust within predictable frameworks. French flexible approaches create creative, adaptive systems that allow for authentic living and growth through responsive adaptation to circumstances. Germany optimized for collective stability through individual discipline, while France optimized for collective creativity through individual authenticity. Germans emphasize systematic approaches. French people emphasize responsive approaches. Both cultures have developed their specific approaches to uncertainty into cultural strengths. Global influence patterns demonstrate this dynamic. German cultural contributions teach that excellence comes through consistency, planning, and systematic improvement. French cultural contributions teach that excellence comes through creativity, spontaneity, and authentic expression. Both philosophies influence global approaches to success and satisfaction. Both cultures are creating different types of cultural mastery. Germany is developing predictable excellence through systematic optimization. France is developing adaptive excellence through creative responsiveness. Germans excel at making complex systems work reliably. French people excel at making reliable systems work creatively. The key insight is that viewing Germans as overly systematic or French people as overly flexible misses the sophisticated cultural development both societies have achieved. Germans have created a culture where systematic approaches serve collective well-being through individual responsibility. French people have created a culture where flexibility serves collective creativity through individual authenticity. This cultural analysis reveals how different societies can develop equally valid but distinct approaches to human flourishing and social organization.